Hello, everybody. This is Sisters demoing for GSoC 2017. This is Connie, and she'll be talking about Volunteers app from the iOS team.
Hi, everyone. So this is my presentation for my GSoC summer project. So about me, I'm originally from California, and I recently moved to Sweden this year. I earned my bachelor's degree in computer science from UC Riverside, after which I worked as a backend engineer and an iOS engineer at a design or like an app design firm where we worked on MVPs for startups. And next week, I will be starting my master's degree in interaction design and technologies at Chalmers University. So I was originally interested in this project partially because it was open source, and it was the type of open source project that I hadn't really seen before. Usually when I think of an open source project, I think of like libraries and packages that are like low level programming, and I really like that this was like a higher level programming project, and that I was also getting the chance to design it. So as I said, I started at the back end and then moved towards the front end with iOS, and eventually I'd like to pursue more in, I'm interested in pursuing a career in terms of like designing products rather than programming them, but I thought this was a really opportunity to do both and get both sides of the perspective of creating an app. In terms of this app, my original proposal for the Volunteers app and what it became were really different. So originally, the Volunteers app was a single event app where volunteers for a single event, like the Grace Hopper celebration, could manage their volunteer hours. And now it's shifted to an app that is multi-event. So users of the app can use it to find multiple events nearby in their area that they can volunteer for or just attend. Another big difference between my original proposal for this app and the end product and my general experience with GSoC was I ended up spending a lot more time thinking about the backend design than I originally thought, but I still feel it was a good experience. So this is the iOS team that I worked with. I originally started off with two mentors, Bruno and Shruti, and then in phase 3, I got another mentor, PitchLeap. So all of my mentors were experienced in iOS and Swift, and I've kind of listed them in order of like my how often I communicated with them. So I guess like Bruno, because we're in similar time zones, he's more like my primary mentor, and then Shruti was like a secondary mentor, and then PitchLeap, since she was added in at the end, is listed last. But I think all of them provided me with really great feedback throughout the project. Bruno in particular really helped me with protocol-oriented programming, which for me was really new in terms of iOS and Swift. And here's a little chart just showing my mentors and me. Okay, so the project. So as I said before, my project is working on an iOS app where users can find nearby ABI, Anita Borg Institute events. So this is like ABI local events and like meetups. And the target audience for this app is members of the Sisters community. This app, you can use it also as an anonymous user, so you don't need to sign up for an account right away. So if you're interested in joining the Sisters community and you want to see what's out there, this is a really good app for finding local networks in your area of other women in technology. And then for those who are already in the Sisters community, but maybe you don't know about local events in your area, this is like a good opportunity to like meet other sisters and to network with them and like find a support system within tech. Okay. Features. The first feature is logging in and creating an account. So you can create an account using 3 methods, which is Facebook, Google, or manual sign up with email. So you could create an email and a password account with also your name, your organization that you're with. So for example, Sisters, your title, like software engineer. And so you could create a profile here at your login or just use a social network to start. So when you first launch the app, you're gonna be given a home screen. I just realized this is a little bit out of order. So in the home screen, you'll see your nearby events in a list. So you'll just have like a quick preview of the events around you in your area in a list format. In the future, it didn't get implemented during the summer period, but in the future, it would be great to be able to filter the list down to affinity groups, so you could find within Sisters events for Latinas in computing or Vietnamese women in tech or whichever affinity group you might identify with. And you could also maybe filter down by event opportunities. Like if you're only interested in events that have volunteering as an option, that would be something to do in the future. So this is the list view of the map, so you can locate yourself. So here I'm located in Alexandria in the screenshot, and you can visually see what other events are in your area, and you can click on them for more details. So if you have an account, you can register for an event. If you don't have an account, you'll be shown a login upsell that will encourage you to create an account. But if you have an account, you can easily register for an event. Your information is auto-filled from your profile. So here in this account, my name is Stacy, and it's filled in my name, my email address, everything that's needed. And then you can also just edit them as you choose. So maybe for certain events, you want to be representing Sisters, but then at other events, you want to be representing the company that you work for, like Google or Facebook. And you can also submit any special accommodations that you may need. So if you might need a wheelchair for accessibility, or if you have any food allergies, that's also something that you can list on your registration so event organizers can be aware of it. So the information that's shown on the event registration, you can manage that within your profile. So here you can edit your name, your last name, your affiliation, your title, your email address. In the future, I like to add also changing your profile picture. But for now, it's static. And then another feature of the app is the connected login. So a lot of times, some people might register for an app with a social login at first because it's convenient. And then later on, you may want to switch and use a manual login for security reasons, or you may want to switch, say you initially signed up with your Facebook and now you want to switch to your Google account because it's more professional or whatever your reason may be. So you can add multiple logins to your account. So here I'm logged in with my Google account, and then if I add my email, the next time I can log in with either my email and password or my Google account. And the only requirement is that you must have at least one login method on your account. And then I also added an accessibility theme management. So this is for any users who might have some difficulty with vision. It's basically just red, white, and black. And it in the future, we could even apply this kind of theme to the Google Map UI. But for now, it's just the main UI elements in the app. And it's persisted within the app. So the next time you open the app, if you switch to a colorblind theme, then you'll still see it as colorblind theme. And now I can show you a quick demo of the app. So in the app, whether you're logged in or not, it'll start you off on the home screen, which is default to the map location. So here I'm already logged in, but I'll just log out, and you'll see here you'll be asked to log in if you want to do any features that require login. So for example, here I'm viewing events, and there's an event right where I am. I can view more detail about it on the map as an anonymous user, or if I was logged in, I would still be able to do this. I can view more event details on the map, no problem. And then if I try to register, I'll be asked to log in first. So now I will just log in with my account. And now I'll be able to register, and it's been pre-filled with information, and I can register for the event. And so because I've successfully registered, it brings me back to the event detail screen. So in the future, I would then be able to see this event on my calendar. But due to the last minute eTouch's migration to Firebase, this section didn't get completed in time, but it will be done in the future. Anyways, back to my profile. So here I can edit my user details. So I can change my name, and I can change my email address if I wanted to. But for example, if I try to change it to an invalid email address, there is input validation here. So I'll know the UI will turn red, and I'll know that I need to fix this. And then if I try to click Save Changes anyways, it'll give me the exact reason why it's not valid. So I save changes now. You'll see I was able to change my name. In my settings, there are two settings. My theme management and my connected login. So here, there is the colorblind theme, and you can see the changes are immediately applied throughout the UI. And I can also manage my connected logins. So here I will add a connected login. I'll connect my email, and I'll see it's updated and that I've connected my account. I will log out now. And you'll also see here with the way Firebase works, it uses the email that you've set as your login as your default email here. But I will log out. And actually, I'll just show settings here. You'll see you can't manage any logins if you're not logged in. You can change the theme though. I will log back in. I'll log in with my email. Autocorrect. My email login that I just created. See my profile picture, my name, and all my details. So if there are any questions? Oh wait, first, how to contribute. Anyone interested in open source and particularly in iOS development can contribute. For beginners, I would recommend writing unit test on the app because even though I did write unit tests for this app, there's still a ways to go, and I think it's a really good way for a beginner to kind of understand the repo and the project is by writing unit tests for it. Also, there will be low priority features listed on the repo that beginners can approach, like adding in the Twitter login. It's pretty straightforward, so way that beginners can contribute. For more advanced, they can contribute special features that we've considered, like maybe the colorblind Google Maps UI. Apple Watch supports integration with your calendar so that any events you've registered will show up on your calendar app. Push notifications for maybe new events that have appeared in your area, and so on. Anyone who's interested in contributing to the app can visit the sisters repo, which is found here. I would suggest that to contribute, that anyone interested would make a fork of the repo, create a new branch on their fork, make their changes there, and then create a pull request. There's also a guide on the repo of conventions for making pull requests, commits, how to set up the project, all on the README. And the only device you need to get started is a computer with Xcode 8 or above. So you don't even need an iPhone, you can just use the simulator. And then now that's it. So if there's any questions or concerns.
Hey, Connie, I had a question. Is the Get Directions button functional for each of those events?
Oh, no, it is set up as a to-do, but I believe that Apple has some built-in functionality within directions, because I know I have seen in other apps that if you click Get Directions, it'll pull up an action sheet where you can choose between any of the navigation apps you have on your phone. So I know that on some apps, they'll like automatically open your Apple Maps as a default, but then I've seen other apps also do, you can choose between Apple Maps, Google Maps, or Waze, or whatever you have installed. So I think that would be more the better approach in the future to do.
Okay, thank you.
I actually have a question for you, Connie. What was the best part of this experience working during the summer, investing your summer on the GSoC program? What's the best part, most difficulties you have, what you learned from it?
So I think the best part is, so I had taken a break from iOS development before, and so getting back into it, there was like I originally was on Swift 2, and then Swift 3 came out, and I think now there's Swift 4. It kind of like reintroduced me to Swift, and it also kind of kept me more up to date and like where programming has gone, because for me personally, I had used protocols before, but only as like class delegates. So working on this project, I definitely got exposed to like more types of programming that I hadn't done before. And I also had to think a lot about. It's really nice. And also just working with the UI and then working with the Firebase API, there was like a lot of learning that was happening. The most challenging part, I would say, it was integrating with a backend that was and still a work in progress. So I feel like I learned a lot in terms of that. Like, for example, I learned how to do mock testing with backend and API, but now that we switched to using Firebase, it's like now you have to take a different approach to the mock testing. And also like a different approach to how you read in the data, because before we were getting like the JSON and now you're using the Firebase SDK. So it was challenging, like working with a backend that like wasn't exactly set in stone, and that was kind of always being tweaked and changed throughout the project.
Yeah, but sorry, Imanshi. Well, I'm gonna ask anyway. You were describing art skills that you learned throughout the summer. How about soft skills? How about working with different people, with different parts of the world, different time zones? How did you react working on the back end with the different views? Because you worked closely with the back end, since it was the common piece of code between the iOS project and Android project. So it's also important that you take also from this experience all the soft skills you gain from this, because art skills are important, but nowadays it's very important for us programmers, software engineers, whatever, to have these soft skills, because you have to differentiate yourself from others as well.
Well, in terms of soft skills, I feel I learned like I had to be really mindful of people in different time zones. And when I was asking questions, like, for example, I know, like, if I don't know if you noticed, but like usually I tag my mentors. Order that I tag them is usually the same, because it's also like the order of like closest in time zone to me. And it's just like, for example, like Pitch Sleep, she's like somewhere in a Pacific Standard Time, so I know that she has like a 9-hour difference between me and Pitch Sleep. So for her, it's like I make sure if I ask questions, like sometimes I ask questions that are more general in the Slack, and so if I need to ask Pitch Sleep a specific question, I would have to tag her, because I know that she's not going to see it for like 8 hours or something, because our time zones are so different. In terms of like working together on the back end with like other people, I think it was interesting and challenging, because it's like I felt the approach to the back end quick fix approach, and for me a little bit it was like kind of hard to just be like, yeah, I think that's how we should do it, because I like to think more in like the long term, but for the purposes of this project it had to be quick. So it was kind of challenging to be like, I had to like definitely compromise on like what was needed, and I had to learn to also to be really clear in my documentation, because we are using common backend, and so we had to be like, oh, like this is going to be the name of the property, like it has to be like end time, no underscore, just one word. So it had to be like really synchronized in our data, otherwise it wouldn't work for the two teams.
Thank you, Connie.
I had a question. So So you're showing the events nearby to the user's area, right? So what is the logic that you have used behind this?
Actually, right now with Firebase, because we set the schema, we kind of like came to agreement on it. So late in the project, there's not really any logic in terms of showing the events within a specific location. I think that's something that needs to be worked on in the future. Right now, it's just pulling all of the events, but there needs to be some kind of query onto Firebase for events with geolocal coordinates within a specific radius. But when I was working on it earlier this week, I found that with just the iOS SDK, it's not very straightforward or simple to make that kind of query.
Okay.
I don't know if maybe Divya had a different experience with it.
Okay. And one more question. So how does the connected logins actually work? Like if I log in through Facebook and through Google, so if I log out through all the accounts and then log in, will I be able to see my calendar events when I am the ones I registered with my Facebook one? Are you getting my question?
So are you saying like you logged in with Facebook and then you logged in with Google, but you didn't connect them?
Yeah, so I actually am not able to understand exactly how does that connection works, and how does it make things easier for the user?
Well, I think honestly that a connected login is kind of an outlier use case. I think most people, when they choose one login, they'll probably most likely use that kind of login again. Like for me personally, anytime there's an email login option available, I usually just do email. Like I usually don't do Facebook, Google, whatever. But in terms of how it works, so every time you log in, you are on a Firebase account. And so you log in and you create a credential for that type of login. So when I give an email password, I create a credential for the email password login. And then I pass that to Firebase, and it has a Firebase authenticated user. And so if I log in with Google, I create a credential again, and then that credential is connected to a Firebase user. So the way the connected login is, it's basically connecting those different credentials to your one Firebase user. If you, for instance, logged in with Facebook, and then you logged out, and then you logged in with Google, those are now two separate accounts because you did not connect them explicitly in the user settings. So if you did want to combine those, so that way you have a shared calendar between those two accounts, you would have to go through the connected login and connect them together. But as far as I know, I didn't get to try that just quite yet because we didn't have Facebook enabled, because the email login is kind of a special case. But if Facebook was enabled, I believe like the process then, because the logic isn't there yet I think you would then have to merge those accounts, because then they have separate Firebase UIDs, and then so you may have registered for different events under them. So you would have to merge those if you wanted to do it that way.
Right. So one of the use case that I can see for connected logins is that if I first of all, for example, log in with email and then I want to share some event on Facebook, for example, like we may do that in future. So then I would need a connected login.
Yes.
Yeah. And one more thing I wanted to ask was, so so if I log in with, for example, I log in with an email and then I log in with Google. So what is the thing that you're using for connection? Like what particular thing? Is it the email or what?
It actually is just handled by Firebase. So whenever we log in, it just goes to a Firebase user account that's associated with that login. So Firebase associates it as a credential. So when I connect to login, so the first step is logging in with one account. So say I log in with my email, and then I want to log in with my Google. I'm not at that point. I'm already logged in with Firebase with my email. So then I get from the Google authentication UI, I get my Google credential, and then I pass it to my current Firebase user, which is logged in with email, and I just add that credential to it. That's just automatically handled by Firebase. So I'm not handling it by email or anything. And the default Firebase behavior is that if you say, like in my demo, I started off with a Google login and then I added an email account. You saw that the email on my profile changed to the added email because the default behavior of Firebase is that it uses the email login as your email. So if you had an email you added on your Google account, it wouldn't change the email because it defaults to just the email credential.
Okay. So, and one more thing. So, why is the email address editable? So, for example, right now, so that is also a future work, right? So, for right now, we are just like I can log in with any email ID, right? Even if the email ID does not exist.
Mm-hmm.
So, in future, we may want to we may want to confirm if this email ID exists, like most apps do.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
in that case, do you think the email address should be editable?
I think the email should be editable because I think, there is a case for someone signing up with one email address, like maybe they signed up with their work, but they actually and then later leave that job and then they want to move their account to their personal email. So that way it's not tied to their work email that they no longer have access to, if that makes sense. But I do think that the point about validating the email with an email link with the token in it is valid and something to be done in the future.
Cool. That's it. Thank you.
Is that everything? Does anybody else have any other questions?
I'm sorry that I kind of missed the demo. I was in the meeting and just couldn't make it out of the meeting on time.
That's okay, Vicky. Did you have any questions? Connie?
Yeah, I think she did a very great job, coming from previous team, and then seeing Connie how she's working. Mostly, it's not a question; it's just a feedback. I kind of see how different between the previous student and how Connie is working. Yeah, it's very impressive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would also like to add that yeah, I also think that like design wise and considering the requirements, she was very thoughtful and was actually uh, like visualizing scenarios. And so, for example, the schema design, that was, I think, really great on her part. And thinking about the accessibility was also good. So yeah, I think that's it's nice on her part.
Thank you.
I agree. Having that accessibility feature made me very excited. So I think that's good in the future to keep that in mind. Great job.
Thank you.
Good job, Connie.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, great job.